Welcome to the IQ Meets EQ podcast. I'm Jackie Broman, Principal Solicitor at TBA Law and CEO of Legally Wise Women. And I'm here, as always, with Ush Dannett, former corporate lawyer, then head of HR, and now an emotional intelligence coach. Good morning, Ush.
Morning, Jackie. How are you going?
Good, good. How are you in lockdown?
Yeah, not too bad. It's week 6, I think, that we're in now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know when we're going to get out of it, but it's okay. I think it's just getting used to life being this way at the moment, and homeschooling and work. And it's hard to coach when you can't see your clients face to face, but yeah, still just getting stuff done. So yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, pretty well, thanks. Yeah, it's lots of time on Zoom and the phone and things like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like Zoom fatigue is real, that's for sure.
Yes, very real, very real. And you're not having too many crises with the people that you're managing?
No, but there has been a fair few like redundancies and things like that happening over the last few weeks. So yeah, there's been a fair bit of that to deal with. And then just the emotions of people as well, right? Obviously being an EQ, but just the ups and downs of what everyone's feeling. And, you know, especially if it's a small business.
Yes, it does drive the emotions on a big roller coaster, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I've got 2 construction clients as well, so they've obviously had it tough the last few weeks.
Yeah, I guess the difference between when Vic went into our 12-week lockdown last winter was that they still had JobKeeper and JobSeeker, and it's just so different this time.
It is. It is. So we'll see.
But you're still getting out and doing some training?
I am. I'm doing a one-on-one in the park. Thank God for that.
Yes. Good.
Yeah.
And the days feel like they're starting to get a little bit longer. Like it isn't quite light yet, but it's not dark at 7 o'clock in the morning anymore either, which is good.
No, but the days are just rolling into one. Did you get that when you were in lockdown?
Yeah. It just feels like a huge, it was a time warp in the middle of the year. It was just this big blob of time.
Exactly. It's like I get to Friday, I'm like, oh my God, it's Friday already. Like, how did that happen? And then it's like the weekend, and it just rolls. Yeah, it rolls all into one. And then it's like Monday again. Oh, great. Okay, let's start the week.
Yeah. And so much time passes. It's hard to measure what you are actually moving forward as well. But I guess there shouldn't be as much pressure to move things forward. It's just survive, really.
Exactly. That's what it is at the moment. Just a day at a time. I'm doing a mental challenge at the moment. Have you heard of 75 Hard?
No.
It's a mental toughness challenge that talks about why people give up on things around fitness. And it's 75 days. You've got to do it 75 days straight. If you miss one day, you start again from day one. So people have taken like 100 and God knows how many days to complete a 75-day challenge. But it's really good. But you have to do a workout every day. You have to read a book for like 10 minutes a day. You got to drink a gallon of water a day, and no coffee or alcohol for 75 days.
Is a gallon of water 4 liters?
3.7.
Yeah, right. And does walking count as a workout?
So you have to do one that is outdoors, and it can be a walk. And then you have to do a second workout, which is indoors.
Right. Okay.
So 2 workouts. So 1 workout and 1 walk. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Sounds good.
75 days, mental toughness. So that is literally a day at a time that you got to do it. If you look at it to go, oh my God, I've got 75 days of this, you're fucked. I mean, you're screwed. Sorry, bleep that out.
No, I'm going to leave that in. Yeah, right. I can see how that would be really good habit setting for some. And it would only be like if you had a really good routine through the week, it would only be if you did something on the weekend that threw you off routine, I reckon.
Yeah, I'm going to get a visual because I'm quite visual. So I'm going to get a bowl. I'm going to put like 75 something in it, and then move one into the other bowl each day so I can like visually see how many days I've got.
What a great idea. Yeah.
So I'm going to do that. Yeah, not chocolate.
No. No, not chocolate.
No, marbles. Yeah, good idea.
Natalia, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm so glad to have you on. We've been, like I said earlier before we started recording, sort of seeing each other and crossing paths all the time. And now we get to talk deeply, which I'm so pleased about.
Absolutely. Very exciting.
So, going all the way back to when you were a little girl, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
Interestingly, I loved animals, like maybe most girls and boys, and I really wanted to be a zoologist. But then I moved on to become an interpreter. So that's where, I suppose, that's where my love for languages started.
Yeah.
But I did a languages and psychology actually degree.
Okay.
Then I moved to Australia when I was 21, and all of a sudden I found myself fascinated by the world of finance. And because I was living by myself with no help or support at the age of 21, I felt I actually needed to learn how to navigate my personal finances, how to actually save money and not to get too much on my credit card.
Yes.
So I went back to uni and did masters in banking and finance.
Wow. Okay. So coming to Australia as a 21-year-old, what brought you here? Did you have family here, or was there a particular reason why you had to leave home?
Yeah, look, I suppose I had a boyfriend at that time, and that's something that kind of happened, and it was just love brought me to Australia, I suppose.
Oh, there you go. And you stayed.
And I stayed. Yeah.
Yes. So before we started recording, you did tell me, because your accent is very mild, and then when you came, I loved the story that you couldn't pick up our accent even though you'd studied English.
Absolutely. I just couldn't really understand. It was a very specific accent, and it took me a while to get to know it more and learn. But now when I speak, sometimes I feel like I'm actually, catching myself saying a lot of Australian words and sounding very Australian, even though I've got my, other accent too. So it's a combination.
All right. So came out here for love, realized that you were, so far away from your family too, I guess. You needed to be independent, learnt banking and finance. Were you working while you were studying?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was, and trying to do different, obviously, jobs, but also I fell into financial planning. I joined a small boutique financial planning firm and loved it. So it was really good to start, and I guess, learning finance and being in the financial planning industry really helped me to cement my knowledge. And that's what I then became. I became a financial advisor. So it's sort of like it started quite early in my career. When I was 23, I joined a financial planning firm.
Yeah, right. Okay. So getting a lot of on-the-job training too.
Absolutely. And it's the best way to learn.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. So as a young woman going into the financial industry, which is traditionally fairly male dominated, and also potentially, English being your second language, what sort of challenges did you face? Did you come up against those gender roles, or how did you navigate that?
Absolutely. I still feel like I'm learning so much. And I guess there are always those challenges that sometimes, it's your mindset. You kind of maybe something holds you back. And for me, what really worked is just being persistent. I knew that if I really wanted to achieve something and I put a lot of effort into it, I will get it. So I kind of just applied that rule and I went for it. And I guess being brave and taking risks as well, and not really listening to the noise, because there is a lot of noise out there. So if you focus on what you really want to achieve in your life and you don't worry about all of the obstacles, because they will always be there, kind of really have your heart set on something and go for it.
Yeah. So push through regardless of all the bits going on around, because you clearly sort of found your passion and just ran with it. So now that you've been in financial planning for quite a while, what focus do you take? Like, what are you really passionate about in the financial space?
I love helping women, and I feel that's my passion, and particularly because when I came to Australia, and obviously love situation didn't work out for me. So I had to stand on my own 2 feet. I had to learn, and it did take a while for me to kind of really get to a place where I felt confident and comfortable and that I was in control of my financial life. So I feel now my mission is to empower other women so they don't have to go through my journey and sort of, maybe years and years of struggling, to kind of to know how to do it better. And it does take a while, I suppose, for some people to get to a place where they feel comfortable, but it doesn't have to be that many years. It could be really much quicker. So that's my passion, help them realize that they can actually do it and have the confidence, because sometimes we lack that confidence, and maybe it's because we just don't know what we don't know, and that holds us back. And sometimes it's just, our perception that we're not good with money. That's another reason why a lot of us just do nothing, and doing nothing is not an option sometimes.
No, that's right. And so you learnt all these hard lessons as a young woman by yourself, but I guess you're probably finding a lot of women at all different ages who now find themselves on their own and trying to work these things out. So what is common amongst what you find amongst women that you meet, and potentially what, I guess, may stand out at certain ages as well?
Yes, I suppose when we're younger, we don't really think long term. So when we're in our 20s, our 30s, we really just focus on our immediate future. And that is, what I'm going to do today, tomorrow, what job I'm going to have, what I'm going to buy for myself. We don't really think about our retirement. So I guess so what I see sometimes is that women go through life without actually really being focused on their longer term well-being, financial well-being, and also when they've got no need for it. For example, if they are in a relationship and everything is going really well in terms of from a financial point of view, their partner looks after all things financial, so they become comfortable and they outsource that entirely. And when that relationship breaks down, that's when they realize that actually they haven't learned how to manage their financial affairs on their own. And that's when they obviously come and see us, which is great. So we help them to go and guide them on that journey. But some others can't afford, for example, our services. It's really, it is a challenge to, I suppose, for those women to stand on their own 2 feet, because there's so much to learn. And who do you trust? Where do you get that information? So when there is a trigger event, for example, if there is an illness or injury, that's when people, they start thinking about their longer term, I guess, situation, or if there is anything else that happens in their life, like a redundancy or a pandemic, I suppose, that prompts us to think about sort of other aspects of our life. And that's where we come in, I suppose.
It's interesting that you also called it the financial well-being. It's not just, the financial position of someone, it's actually more of a wellness thing as well. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Well, I guess, if you think about well-being, you look at your mental well-being, health, obviously your physical well-being, but also your financial well-being is just to ensure that you've got everything in place if there is a situation that you need to get access to cash funds to pay for an emergency, or to pay some medical bills. You've got that, safety net that you can rely on. So you do look at, obviously, financial well-being in the future. Are you going to maintain your lifestyle in your retirement? Lifestyle you are currently very accustomed to. So all of those questions about your financial well-being, it's how well you also understand your situation and whether you've got any anxiety or stress around it, because sometimes money, and finances cause stress. Some people live paycheck to paycheck. They don't know what's happening. They get themselves into debt. So being financially well, it means that, we've got everything under control. We know where we stand. We've got our goals. We've got our path and our plan to achieve those goals. And we are feeling, quite good about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. And I don't actually think that I've thought of it as part of well-being before. Like, I've thought of it as being the base potentially of then having your well-being grow from, because if you've got the anxiety of poor finances, it does affect everything. But I hadn't actually thought of it being a component of wellness. So yeah, I like it. I like it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And tell me if you don't want to go here, but I know that there's a lot of women now talking in the educating and empowering women space for, financial education and things like that. And yet I think that quite a few of those people who've put their hand up to do financial education, it's hard to assess what background they have or what qualifications they have. Do you have anything about that you want to say about the industry, or about how to assess what information you're getting or where the information you're getting it from?
Absolutely. And there are a lot of influencers out there. We spoke about them earlier. I guess my question is always, what is it in there for them? In any product that they promote or any discussion they have, obviously they somehow get paid. So I would always wonder how, obviously they, how their business model, what is it based on? As a consumer, I guess doing your research is very important, and finding out about the person. So that's when the trust comes into play. I guess there is a financial advisor register. If you just Google financial advisor register, it will come up. So you can actually put their name into that search bar, and their name, if they're not registered on the ASIC's website, it means that they're actually not a financial advisor. So you've got obviously your financial coaches there as well. So they're slightly different. So it's all about cash flow coaching and, money mindset coaching. I guess it's really, so finding the right person who can actually help you in your personal circumstances could be a challenge. And I guess, looking at, we always take advice from our family and friends. Again, is this the best option? Sometimes maybe not. Really understanding, I guess, what do we actually need? What is our problem? What is our one burning issue that we are currently experiencing? And then trying to find the right person who can actually help you to, help you achieve that goal or sort out that problem.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I had thought that most of those money mindset people were financial planners, but no.
That's right. It's changing, and the industry has changed. The financial planning industry has changed since the Royal Commission. So I guess you do have a lot of people that are obviously perceived as financial planners, but they are not. And how do we know? It's just, and that's why that website, ASIC's website, really helps understand whether they are actually financial advisors.
Yeah, no, fascinating. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so you, as a 21-year-old, you hadn't come to Australia quite, or you were just about to make that journey, weren't you? Yes.
Yeah.
So going back then to that time, what sort of advice would you go back and give yourself as a 21-year-old?
Wow. Look, I spoke about risk taking. I think particularly when we talk about women, I think women, I'd love them to take more risk and just to really focus on their personal well-being. Sometimes we focus on what's good for others more than what's good for us. And without being selfish, I think it's really important that we look after ourselves first, and getting education, getting as much knowledge as possible. It's extremely powerful, because knowledge is power. So really learning, and I know sometimes people say, it's finance is boring, and but it's essential. So it's like your health. It's essential to know the basics of finance and how money works. So I would say, I would encourage every young girl and woman to really listen to podcasts about financial planning, speak to others about it. Money has this bad sort of, it's a bit of a taboo. We don't talk about money. And also earlier in life, we might have very different upbringing in terms of what was okay to talk about during the family discussion. So I guess really understanding, having that awareness, and also everyone has blind spots, and that's okay. It's okay to learn about it later in life, as long as we don't repeat the same mistake twice. So it's for all of those things.
Yes, yeah. What's that saying? Fool me once, shame on me. Or the other way around.
But it's interesting. It takes, I've read it somewhere and I love stats, but it takes 24 times for somebody to do something 80% accurately.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it's actually, and that's why I think when it comes to personal finance, it's not okay just to read about it. It's actually the doing part that is more important. And we only learn by making mistakes. So when we teach our kids, for example, to anything about money, I think it's really important that they've got that responsibility of handling money early in life as well. So even if they lose money, it's okay, because at that age is really not that significant. It's different when we are an adult. So learning and making mistakes is really important throughout the process. Even if you bought Bitcoin and you've lost all of your money, it's okay. It's as long as you didn't put all 100% of your wealth into it. It is still a learning curve, so that's fine. And I think that's what sometimes is missing. We just don't do it because we're so scared that we will lose money.
Which brings me back around to you talking about risk-taking before. And I agree. I do think it's because people are so scared of losing anything, let alone, even if it's just a small amount. It's like we have like a greater aversion to loss than we do to gain, don't we? So we prevent ourselves from losing. We don't take any risk because we're so scared of losing something, regardless if the gain could be bigger or not. So, I mean, it's all about calculated risk too, isn't it? So
It's true. And what is the worst that could happen? Like, I would always ask that question. What is the worst outcome that could happen? With any decision.
With young people, you were just talking about them managing money from as early on as possible. Do you think with us going or having less and less cash these days and more, it's, just numbers on a screen or numbers in an app, do you think that is having any impact on the younger generations managing money?
I think it's definitely, the world is getting more complex. And I feel like sometimes when I work with my clients that are in their 60s or 70s, they've got a very different perception of money and the way they handle their money. Some of my ladies, they used to put $100 in an envelope and they would only spend $100 in a week. So, and they used to, that was very simple, but yet it worked. Where currently we've got so much happening. We've got buy now, pay later, payment systems, and obviously that is extremely a different level. We've got credit cards, obviously, and sometimes it's harder for younger people to understand the actual product details, the terms of those contracts. So they might not realize what they get themselves into. And obviously the product providers, they don't really openly talk about it because it's not in their best interests. So I guess there is certainly more complexity that they need to learn later in life. But I think the biggest advantage is when we talk with kids at home about money, and we have open discussions and we but we talk about any decision that we make as adults. That's how they learn, but also encourage them to, make those decisions and that's sometimes, it's really hard to achieve, but that's the only way they can learn is by looking at us and by copying our behavior and copying our actions. That's how kids, they're sponges. They really learn from everything that they see.
Yeah. A lot of women don't like being thought of as role models, but we're always role modeling all the time, aren't we? So,
absolutely.
Yeah, no, very good point. So as you said, the world's getting more and more complex. You're talking to women and trying to, well, to educate them as well at the same time as getting them to take some risks and manage money for themselves. I can imagine that there would be a fair bit of pressure. How do you make sure that you're well? Do you have regular little check-ins or anything that you do for your own health?
I certainly, again, it's part of my personality. I do like a routine. I do like, a good system in place. So if it's been quite sort of cold and wintry lately, so it's been hard to wake up sometimes early in the morning. But I feel like, same with finances, if you inbuild all of those little tricks into your life, like brushing teeth, it's something that we do on a regular basis. Very similar with any other activity, anything that you'd love to achieve, like saving, for example, or investing. If you build it, if you make it part of your routine, you will do it. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It could be 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a week, as long as it's there and it's constant. So that potentially could help us to achieve better results than if we just do it once a year. So for me personally, yes, I'm trying to build all of that into my calendar, trying to be more, obviously, from a health point of view, very similar as financial, you do just build it into your life and you just have to follow it.
Yes. There's a lot of willpower.
It's okay to not to do it once in a while. Like, don't beat yourself up too much, because it's, we're all humans, we all have our flaws, and that's just what it is.
But more often than not, and then you'll get there, I guess. Yeah,
absolutely. Yes, it's all about 80-20 rule. If we don't do it consistently for a short period of time, we'll achieve better results if we just do sprints.
Fantastic, great advice, thank you very much. Just being respectful of your time, I want to thank you again for reaching out, and we've finally got to speak properly, so that's great. If anyone wants to continue this conversation, get in touch with you directly, where should they go?
True Wealth Advice is the business. Natalia Smith is my name. I'm on social, Instagram, LinkedIn, and would love to speak to anyone who's in need of a bit of guidance, I suppose. And really, I think it's all about having those discussions and being, I guess, not judgmental, but anyone can achieve a better life. So that's kind of, we're here to help.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I love these finance ones. We've done a couple, haven't we? I think we've done about 2 before. And every time I listen to it, I get into a panic mode for like 30 minutes. Going, my financial well-being is so shocking. No, it's not. It's got better actually each time I've heard someone, because you know what I have to say, every time we've heard someone, and I can't remember who they were to be honest, top of my head, but I've made a change since every single one of them. Yeah. So I was actually excited listening to this last night, going, I wonder what I'm going to do this time around to embed a change towards, getting better with savvy with money. So the first one we heard, I had actually booked an appointment with a financial advisor, got my super sorted, got another accountant. So yeah, every time I've done something. So it's good. It's like, it's really educated me in the process as well.
It's great, because we don't actually talk deeply about technical stuff. It's just bringing it to the forefront of your mind that I'm not actually sorted in this area.
Yeah, and there's always this perception, right, that we've got time. And I think, Natalia made a point to go, we sort of live in the moment a lot, and we just go, yeah, okay, retirement's ages away, or I don't need to think about it then, and super will be okay then. And but it creeps up, doesn't it? Like it really creeps up.
Yeah, yes, that's right. You and I, though, if you again think about it very visually, we are almost halfway through our main working life.
Yes.
And if we haven't done much with that yet, we've only got half again what that amount of time, So been working for 20 years, haven't really put all that much into super, haven't paid off a house. We've only got maybe 25 years left of work.
Yeah, when you put it like that, it's like, oh my God. want to go hide in my fort. No, it's true. It's so true though. But I've also got, since learning about this stuff and having my, thing with the financial accountant, what I've realized though is, and it sounds so simple, and you hear it all the time and it's cliched, but you've got to get your money to work for you, because I think, in the olden days, I don't know about your upbringing, but with mine, it was definitely just work hard, buy a house, pay it off, you'll be okay. And it's our parents, they never invested because it wasn't a thing. They just worked hard, they got their paycheck, and we lived okay. And that's all it was. So your paradigms around money are technically all around what it was growing up. And it's that whole rich dad, poor dad thing, if you look at it, isn't it? Around time for money, not just a paycheck. And it's not, even if you're employed, that's fine. You don't have to run your own business, but it's about how can you be smarter? How can you be smarter so the money is making money?
Very true. Very true. And I like the concept, and I don't think that I'd heard it before. And I said that during the interview about financial well-being, because I don't think the other financial planners had talked about it in that way. They'd talked about, your values around your money and those sort of things. But it is a whole part of your well-being, I guess. I like
100%, because especially like if you look at marriages, what's the biggest cause of stress in couples is money, is finance. So it totally is about your well-being, really, in that sense, because if you're going to stress about it, then that totally affects your well-being. Yeah, so it's interesting. So I've got like that IQ side on my brain that's okay, I'll go see a financial planner and, invest my money, whatever money I have. And then the other side of me is like, it'll be all sweet, abundance mindset, there's enough to go around, all that sort of stuff. So I'm sort of like half and half with it all as well.
Yes. And when speaking to Natalia and finding out that some of those mindset coaches probably don't have a background in money at all, it is like, well, it'll be a little bit wary potentially of that abundance message, because it can catch you. I mean, there's the concept of, I'm building a business and it will pay off one day. But what if the one day is a long way away?
Or too late.
Or too late. You're still going to have enough potentially, but you do wonder, well, if I was chipping away, like you were saying, at some investments now, how much further ahead would I be when my business does finally pay off,
Yeah, I guess what I've done to shift that, because you're right, it is that. I think it's two things. First thing is, if you have an abundance mindset, even if you don't have as much as you wanted, you would still be happy, right? So that's one thing. But I think the second thing with the abundance mindset is to actually visualize the amount of money you want and start working towards that. So it just relieves the pressure in a way of, oh my God, I've got to, top up my super and this and that. So like on my vision board, I've got savings goals. I've got, 2 houses that I want paid off. And so I think it's definitely a combination of the IQ-ness and, okay, I've got to sort my shit out, versus I'm going to also visualize and emotionalize that visualization of where I want to be.
Yeah.
And I've noticed I've been way less stressed about money in the last 12 months than I ever have been, ever. And considering I'm also divorced now, so even more so, that you think that it'd be more pressure, but it's not. It's like, I'm just like, definitely more in that abundance mindset, more in that I know what I want and I know I can get it.
You're right. I think it does definitely have to go hand in hand, because if you didn't have the IQ piece with the plan about how to get to the vision, you would just be relying on hope. And I like the saying that hope is never a strategy.
Yeah, exactly. So, but and then it also starts, I think we've spoken about this before as well with the other interviews, but it starts with, for me, going back to the EQ piece, it's about awareness of what my blocks are for money. And I think no amount of going to see a financial planner and investing is going to work until you remove some of your paradigms and blocks, because it goes back to those, if you look at those lottery winners, right, that can't keep the money because they just, they're conditioned, they don't feel worthy of it. So I know that I've done, a fair bit of work with John Assaraf, who's amazing around money.
Yes.
And he's got a program called Winning the Game of Money. And it's all about, okay, you know, whether you have X amount or an insane amount of money, how do you know that you are in the right headspace to receive and accept and keep it? And I think that is so true. And I've seen people, like I've seen friends of mine that have had money and it's gone, and they're like, what? I don't know what happened. And I'm like, how can you lose $1 million? Like, what is wrong with you? How does it just go?
Yes.
But it does. It's because they don't feel worthy, you know, they don't feel deserving of it. So I think there's financial well-being, absolutely, but I think there's so many other angles of it that we don't talk about in mainstream, you know, financial literacy.
Yes, whenever you talk about money blocks, I always wonder, well, you know, what are mine? I think I might have them all.
Yeah, mine was initially around, like, you know, just pricing as well of my service. I remember having that one for ages. Like ages, and my coach was like, what are you doing? You might as well just give it for free. He used to get really shitty at me. And I'm like, no, I can't. And what he said, it was interesting, was not only did I didn't value my expertise and worth and time, but also what he said, and it was so true, was I was projecting my money fears on someone else. So I was going, oh, they're not gonna be able to afford it, or, you know, it's going to be too much money for them. And he's like, how do you know what their circumstances are? How do you know that they don't value this and they've invested or, you know, save money to pay for this? And it's so true. We project our own issues onto other people.
We do.
And then they pick that up in energy, and then you wonder why people aren't buying your service. And in this book I was reading, you know, they did this experiment. There was a shop somewhere in in the UK, and it was selling these sort of crystal jewelry, and she just couldn't sell it in the shop. It just wasn't moving. It was one of the products that wasn't moving. And this money guy went in and he goes, it's too cheap. And she's like, no, it's just not selling. Like, I just want to get rid of it. And he's like, no. He goes, put the price up 4 times what it is. And she's like, no, don't be silly. He's like, trust me, just put it up. She put it up the price 4 times of what it was, and it went within weeks.
Very interesting.
It is, isn't it? So yeah, I think that side of this whole money is fascinating.
Yes. It's funny, actually. I'm reading this book at the moment, or listening on Audible rather. It's called The Soul of Money.
I read it.
You have?
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's quite good. It looks at
the myths good.
And it looks at a whole lot of different scenarios that this woman has been in for both very wealthy people and very poor people.
Yes.
Talks about all the psychological things that are keeping people in their patterns.
Yeah, it is. It's a really good book. I've actually listened to it twice. But you can take that to the next level, and it will be a topic for another time. But they also say that your business has a soul. Right? So if you have passed in your ancestral line, if people have done bad things in business, or you know, screwed people over with money, it impacts your business, your current business. And there's this guy who does this work, and he removes these like financial blocks that, you know, people go, I don't know why my business isn't successful. Like, I'm doing everything right. I'm marketing it right. I'm doing everything. And he goes, nope. He goes, there's generational trauma in the soul of your business. It's such a freaking good book. And he shares like anecdotes of people he's worked with in their business, and he's just worked with them for like 2 or 3 sessions, and then he's literally turned their businesses around. And they're like, I don't get it. Like, you know, we've done everything. We've had coaches. We've done this. And he's like, oh yeah. He goes, it was just ancestrally in your line. Someone just did something bad, and it's impacted yours.
You have to find the name of that book for me.
Soul marketing.
Soul marketing. So it's the next step after Soul of Money.
Yeah. And it basically teaches you how to market your business from the soul perspective of your business, and not worry about, you know, paid ads and this and that. And he's like, just work on and treat your business as a soul. So the other thing he talks about, which I love, is, you know, if you know that your business has a soul, how do you treat people in your business? You know, how do you value them? How do you provide the best value? So he makes you just be better in your business with the concept that your business has a soul. So
very good. Thank you. Another book to read.
Yeah, that's good. I love it.
I love as well at the end that Natalia touched on a few other themes that we hear quite regularly about role modeling and also about the 80-20 rule. She touched on both those things that we keep hearing over and over again.
Mm.
And with the role modeling, it was certainly sort of coming back around to some of our very early conversations around women not particularly wanting to step up and be seen as leaders, and yet we are leading all the time and role modeling to those around, particularly to kids and to younger staff and to, you know, those who even just follow us in terms of influence.
Yeah, it's so true. I was taking away from that bit, not really leadership modeling, but just how I am with Gia, my daughter. And, you know, it goes back to those paradigms of how you use certain words around money. So not saying like, oh, you know, we can't afford that or it's too expensive, you know, just phrasing things better, more in the positive about, oh, that's, you know, that's worth a lot. How are we going to save for that? You know, rather than, oh, it's too expensive. Because then it's, you know, putting our own lack limitations onto them. But yeah, it's interesting. They do learn a lot and they do pick up a lot from you. And, you know, then you feel this responsibility of like you're shaping potentially your child's financial freedom based on how you behave and act.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I can't remember what I was watching, but it was somewhere where some quite aware mother was like, I'm trying not to recreate all these conditions and issues that I had in myself that I had to undo. But then she was really conscious that no matter what, you're going to put some kind of trauma into your kid anyway, one way or the other. So, well.
Exactly. Yeah. But then give them the tools so that you know, they can deal with it. Whatever that looks like. Yeah.
No, it was interesting. Again, good conversation and good reminder. I think you're right. I think we've had about one financial planner a year over the last 3 years. It sort of comes back around, doesn't it?
It does. And it always gives me a bit of a nudge to do something. So
yeah.
Are you going to do anything? Have you been inspired to do a financial health check or something? Or
well, I'm going to get the Soul of Marketing book. So that's one thing that I'm going to do. I'm actually sitting down with my accountant today to go over some of the performance things in business finances, because I think that, you know, I've got my personal finances as sorted as I can within the scope of what I'm doing. And, you know, you can't invest anymore unless you've got more income, and the business has to be then the thing that is generating this income. So I've turned my focus back to that to see, well, what tweaks do we need to make to actually make this thing perform?
Awesome. Great.
So that combined with Soul of Marketing might be the way to go.
Might be the way to go. Yeah, I updated my vision board because I do it every Christmas with Gia, but I thought, you know what, I was really inspired this weekend just to update it. So I've just updated it with some financial goals, business goals, but actually put time frame, a couple of dates to it this time around. So around savings and, you know, what I want to achieve. So that's one thing I've done. So I've just been a bit more clearer in my visualization. So yeah, that's my sort of one bit of action.
Fantastic. Well, for the listeners, please tell us what your one bit of action is. Please get in touch. Where can they contact you?
EQ.academy, thanks.
Brilliant. Jackie at Legally Wise Women, or LinkedIn. We do post this on there, and it's a really great place to have some conversation in the comments there, or at iqmeetseq.com.au. All right. Well, thanks again. Good to see you.
Thanks. And you.
It feels like it's been a while, but yes, see you again soon.